Hello, this is Tabitha again, coming to you, bringing to you another episode of Open the Womb podcast. Today we'll be talking about rebellion takes root. With damage to your heart, you're led by emotions instead of rational thinking. Your mind is clouded by pain, and what appears to be logic is irrational thinking. It's important to be healed from the wounds of the past in order to have a positive future. Rebellion warps your thinking or thought process, causing you to operate off of feelings and sometimes fear. You become angry, bitter, and lost. You look for answers, but you can't find them. Why? Because you don't know where or how to begin the healing process. Why is it difficult to find peace? It's because you haven't forgiven the person or persons that harmed you. No matter how many times you say you forgive, when situations arise that are similar to the onset of your pain, you begin to rebel against the person or situation. Arguments ensue, and you become the person inflicting damage, but you only see your wounds. And now you're victimized by self-inflicted pain from the wound that you never addressed. In my first podcast, I said, where did it begin? And that our wounds, if left untreated, affect our decision making. It also affects our emotions. We don't know whether we're coming or going, and in some cases, all we know is that there is pain and a hole in our heart. We're not living our lives to the fullest. We're just existing. My rebellion was due to not having my biological father in my life. I started looking for love in all the wrong places. It affected my relationships and how I chose who I got involved with. Trust and believe the relationships were abusive due to my untreated wounds. They were toxic relationships. Upset with my mother, yet I still loved her. My thinking was warped by the wounds. I couldn't see straight. Mentally, I was a wreck, but no one knew the pain I was in because I remained silent. My rebellious years consisted of me sneaking around, lying about where I'd be, and hanging out with boys when no one was home. In my warped mind, I wanted to be loved by a male figure, just wanting to be held and given affection, as if it came from my dad, but it didn't change anything. The love I was looking for was something I'd never obtained, the love of a father. Being rebellious was just my way of getting attention from my mother, but it still didn't fill that emptiness inside. As I got older, I started realizing that I didn't recognize what my emotions were. I didn't know how to feel, and I started walking around as an empty shell of a human being. My mind was so infected by the wound that I thought running away would solve my problems, but life just got worse. I experienced homelessness, addiction, rape, molestation, physical and mental abuse, suicide attempts, and the loss of my daughter through a stillbirth. I started realizing that in some of this, I victimized myself because I chose to remain silent. I also made wrong decisions for my life that was to no fault of anyone else. My pain was there because I allowed it to remain there without getting the proper treatment. I made decisions because of the pain sustained by wounds that people didn't know they inflicted. But I was a kid. My thought was, couldn't anyone see what I was going through or what was going on with me? I was labeled by a neighbor as a hot cookie, and yes, her words reached my ears, and yes, it hurt. With all these adults or parents around, you mean to tell me that none recognized that something was wrong with me? My heart was broken. So rebellion set in full speed ahead, followed by acting out and finally running away from home. The next stage of my life at 16, I got married, pregnant, abused sexually by my husband, introduced to drugs, becoming homeless, the loss of my baby girl, and all of that within 1 year. I was so angry at God at this point. I remember walking down the street one day and yelled out, "God, I hate you." And as soon as I said it, I retracted it, saying, "God, I don't hate you. I just don't understand. How could you have taken my baby from me? She was the only thing that I had to show love to, and that would love me back." I started thinking, what do I have to live for? So I took a handful of tranquilizers. Believe it or not, my husband came and saw the pills were gone, and he made me regurgitate them. I guess you could say he didn't want to see me dead. I was angry with my life, and yes, it was out of control. The damage had caused me to start using drugs even more after the death of my daughter. The abuse didn't help. I thought I deserved what I was getting. I felt so low, I started thinking that my dad never looked for me. My mother and I had a rough relationship, and I just wanted all the pain to end. How can a person heal from all this trauma? Believe it or not, the more pain I experienced, the more I cried out to God to help me. The more I cried, the more I began to seek comfort. I finally broke down and prayed. I was raised in the church, so I did know the Our Father's prayer, but I thought to myself that there was something more that I needed to say to the Lord. Here's the prayer I said that started the change in my life. Lord, please help me. I don't want to be this way anymore. Give me something that will change my life. Guess what? A few weeks later, I found out that I was pregnant. Now, of course, this was after I divorced my daughter's father and tried to move on, but I was still on the drugs, and I knew this was not the life that I wanted for myself. Thus, the reason for the prayer. It's been 4 years since I lost my daughter when I found out I was pregnant again. I was so lost, but after that prayer, my life began to gradually change. I had to open my mouth and ask the Lord for help. I didn't know what to do as a kid, but as an adult, I realized that my life was in complete shambles, and as an adult, I wanted to be healed. And I wanted a life that was filled with joy, peace, comfort, and love. I talked to the only one that could help me, and that was the Almighty. My prayer for you, the listener, is to know that you're not alone in your struggles. There's always someone going through something, and sometimes theirs is worse than yours. The problem is that when we go through, we shut down. We isolate from people, and pride sets in, saying no one will understand, no one cares. You feel like you're the only one going through this, or you feel that people will judge you, and you begin to feel like you are weak. I'm here to tell you that that is what the enemy tells us in order to keep us bound to our wounds. It's designed to cripple us and keep us from where the Lord is trying to take us. If we could see or think from a spiritual aspect during times of turmoil, struggles, or pain, we would know that these attacks or trials have been designed to bind us up and keep us from the plan and purpose of the Lord for our lives. I want you to think about these questions and really search your heart for the answers. If you had not gone through the trial in your life, where do you believe your life would be? How was your wound or wounds affected your outlook on your life? Do you still have anxiety or get emotional when talking about your past? If so, your wound is still controlling or affecting your life. If your wounds are still affecting you or controlling you, I pray that you seek the help that you need for healing. Psalms 107:20, it states, He sent out His word and healed them and delivered them from their destruction. And in James chapter 1, verses 1 through 4, it states, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes scattered among the nations, greetings. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know the testing of your faith produces perseverance. Let perseverance finish its works, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Next week, I'll discuss with you how to deal with those wounds that still control you. As always, I thank you for listening and hope that by sharing bits of my life with you, it shows you that you're not alone and there is healing on the other side of the wound. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.